just a bloke in a bar.
Cameron Smith has run from dummy half and scores a grand final try. The Melbourne Storm have won it. The men of purple are the 2020 NRL Premiers.
Save big with Best Shed's massive spring sale and get the camper trailer tough enough for Australia. The Super Tough Adventure Kings Camper, available at fourwheeldrivesupercentre.com.au. Welcome to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith and Denon Kemp on SEN.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Captain's Run. I'm feeling so good because it's finals footy. Smithy, speak to me. How you feeling, buddy?
Kempy, what a weekend. What a first weekend of finals footy. The Storm, obviously, up on Friday night, just their clinical self against Manly. I was a little bit disappointed with Manly with their first up effort. It was like they felt like they were still in the regular season, like they played against the Cowboys, and they just weren't ready to start and play with the intensity needed of a finals game. But I'm sure they'll bounce back. They got the great Tommy Turbo playing for them, and Des Hasler, who's been there plenty of times before. Fantastic matches across the Saturday. Of course, the Rabbitohs upsetting the mighty Panthers. Everyone thought it was just going to be without Latrell Mitchell. Penrith are just going to walk into a prelim, but your old coach, old Longneck, he got the job done for him. And the game I thought was just like the match of the round was Gold Coast Titans versus the Roosters.
Wow.
Where there was a chance for the Titans to win that match, to steal it from the Roosters' hands in the dying seconds of the match, but wasn't to be. And then, Parramatta took care of Newey, and we're down to 6.
Mate, it was such a good... I was worried coming into this finals series because we'd had so many blowouts through the year. I thought, please don't go to finals footy and there's these huge blowouts and we're all sitting here going, oh, my God, turn it off at half time.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? But the quality of... It feels like every year we never fail to deliver, or not we, but the players never fail to deliver high-quality footy when finals footy rolls around. It's just a different beast, eh, Smithy?
Well, it is, mate. Yeah, and they all know that it's another step up, and the coaches have them, sort of ready to go. And the quality of footy, as I said, was great. The Titans Roosters match, it's sort of the first 15, 20 minutes. It looked like both teams were trying to settle a few nerves. There was an elimination final, of course, but once they sort of got the footy out of the way, the first 20 minutes, and all the nerves sort of disappeared. It was great. Open footy, played really fast in Townsville. It was a warm day. It was about 24 degrees when they kicked off. And, look, as you said, mate, the intensity that they played at, the speed in which it was played at was just fantastic. So I'm looking forward to this weekend. We got some huge clashes coming up this weekend. Both games being played in Mackay, of course. But can't wait to see what unfolds.
Man, talk about finals footy and, things ratcheting up a gear. Talk about pressure in press conferences. We had the Ivan Cleary, Wayne Bennett saga for the ages.
Yeah.
So just to recap for some people that have been living under a rock for the last week, basically, so 3 weeks ago, privately, Wayne went to the referees' bosses after they had lost to Penrith.
Yes.
Within his right, every coach does this. They go to the refs and say,
exactly.
Here's some footage. May you please explain what the interpretation is with the rule here. All privately done, all done behind the scenes. It is within the coach's right. Then as the lead-up came to this week of footy with Penrith versus Rabbitohs, Ivan Cleary publicly said that he felt that Nathan Cleary may be illegally targeted for his kick when, people are putting kick pressure on him.
Yep.
Anyway, the rest ensured. Wayne Bennett returned serve. Then after the game, Ivan Cleary came out again and said, Wayne Bennett and other coaches, including myself, shouldn't be able to manipulate the referees before the game. Then Wayne Bennett returned served again. Mate, speak to me.
It went on and on.
Mate, what are your thoughts about the saga of Cleary and Bennett?
Well, in the end, it was the master that won, wasn't it? And he's it's probably better for you to comment on this, Kempy, given he was your coach for a few seasons, but he's got this great ability just to identify when his team may be feeling a little bit of pressure, or a particular player or someone in and around the squad is maybe not at their best or feeling some sort of nervousness around their matches, and he will come out and take the entire spotlight, take the heat out of the team and take the spotlight and shine it on himself. He's just got that great ability, and there's no doubt in my mind that that's what he did. Now, he had obviously Latrell Mitchell suspended for the entire final series, and there was a lot of talk about, Souths are gone. They can't do it without him. Look at their first matchup. They're playing Penrith. Young fella, Taft playing at fullback. He played one match leading into the finals. It's classic Wayne Bennett, where he just said, well, I'm going to take the entire focus away from my football side and this young man and put it on myself. So there was, in the last 2 days leading up to that game, hardly spoke about the teams or the players or what was going to involve in the game. It was Bennett versus Cleary and the two coaches having a go at each other. But we seen from the weekend that they just completely ambushed Penrith. Young Taft at the back, he had a cracker of a game, and it's being a great coach. It shows being a great coach is not just about your ability to come up with game plans and tactics and all this sort of stuff. It's about managing your squad and having them in the right frame of mind to play in these big matches, and he certainly did that on the weekend.
Oh, absolutely. And Wayne is the interesting thing about Wayne's career is that, when you've got guys like a Bellamy or even a Robinson to an extent, they haven't really, some circumstances they have, but in most cases, their footy does the talking in the sense that they're always winning, so their job is never under pressure. Wayne has had some lean years, and yet he's always managed to manage the media and he's a lot of other coaches. For example, you look at like Des Hasler. He went to the Bulldogs, and he was a super coach at that point. Things went wrong at the Bulldogs, and the media and whoever was, I guess, in the against Des and his decisions at the Bulldogs made Des look like he'd done all these terrible things and he was a bad coach. And so there was a narrative that Des couldn't coach. Whereas you look at Wayne, he's managed, he would never allow that to happen. And why I say that is when you talk about masters of the media and masters of narrative, Wayne is that guy.
Oh, absolutely, mate. And it comes with experience. Like he's been in the game for so long. He's won 7 premierships. So he actually knows how to handle the media and manage his the storyline around him as coach and what's happening in his club. So, that's just another skill that he has compared to someone like an Ivan Cleary, who's just, relatively new to a head coaching role. I know he's been in there for, several hundred games now, but, it's an ability that he's been able to build over time. And not every coach is going to have that ability. To be able to, talk to that media that way and build stories around, your squad and your coaching and what you're doing and whatnot and just, be able to manage the entire situation. But he's certainly mastered it, Wayne. And again, you look back at last year's Origin series where Queensland were said that this is the worst squad ever assembled in a Queensland jumper. They're no chance. Well, look what happened there. He just made them believe. He took all the pressure away from the players to allow them just to go out and enjoy themselves and do what they do best, and they come up with a series victory. Well, if you're a Rabbitohs fan, geez, you got to be very happy at the moment. And look, they're one game away from now what is going to be a possible grand final game for them this year. And like I get like the whole fairy tales and all that sort of stuff, but you think about it, like it's Wayne's last year at the Rabbitohs and Adam Reynolds too. Who started his career there. He was a junior at Redfern, and wouldn't it be a great way to send those two players out with a grand final? Absolutely.
Now, if you're on the Penrith side of things, with your experience as a captain, and you've obviously been through pretty much everything there is to go with rugby league, you've also been captain of a side that has massive expectations placed on them. So I'm sure you've been in situations where you haven't met those expectations, so the pressure mounts even more.
Yep.
Penrith are now sitting in a position, a real possibility, where they get bounced out, 2 losses in a row, and they've gone from breaking a bunch of records, having, over the last 2 years, they've essentially had the best record in the modern era of rugby league, but they've got nothing to show for it. What would you say as a captain of that side to get everything back to ground level?
Well, I just talk about what you can control or what we can control. It's not about what the media or the fans of the game or the general public say about us and what we should be doing or when we should be winning or how many points we should be winning by, because that's you can't control that stuff. You can't control people's opinions. What you can control is your own performances and in particular the way you prepare for each game. Now, there's you should have an air of confidence about your own ability and your team's ability, and be confident that when you go out and you go and play well, that you should win. But, and I'm not for 1 second saying that, the Penrith side go out in the field every week and just think it's going to happen. But, you gotta also understand that there's a lot of work that goes into it. And just because of, the season that they had last year, they won 17 games in a row. There was a lot of talk about, that this team is they're very young. They've grown up together. They can build some sort of dynasty. Sometimes you can fall into the trap of listening to the outside noise, and just believing it and thinking that, I'll pull on my Penrith jersey. I'll go out in the field and we'll just win because we're better than everyone else. Well, no, you got to go out there. You actually got to go out there and earn the victories. Even that you may well be the best football side in this competition, but the victories aren't going to be handed to you by anyone, particularly now when we're in the last 3 weeks of this competition, because there are some good footy sides left in this comp. Well, they're the 6 best teams left in the comp, obviously. And, if they got a tough game this week against Parramatta, and if they're lucky enough to get through that one, they then face Melbourne.
Wow.
So
it's
a tough road for them now.
Absolutely. And the thing with the Penrith Panthers, you hit the nail on the head. They're a young side, so there can be a tendency to kind of expect results, but results are never owed to you in any. You've got to earn it every single time you step on the field. But we will talk more all things footy after the break. Don't forget to send us a text 0457 736 736. This is the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. For Best Sheds, save big with Best Sheds. Massive spring sale. And the super tough Adventure Kings camper trailer. Tough enough for Australia. Back shortly on SEN. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith on SEN. Make sure to download the app if you haven't. Oh, it's brought to you by Bloke in a Bar as well. Grab a case of Bloke in a Bar if you'd like. If you don't like it, I'll be quiet and you can do whatever you want. Drink another beer. But if you do like it, grab a case of Bloke in a Bar. But we have some text meeting.
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Here we go. Turn it up. I'm a young battler from out the back of Mudgee, just doing my best. None of this kitching stuff. Now, we got some text, Smithy. We got some text. We've got a text in. Should Selwyn Cobbo be playing fullback over Tessie New next year? Personally, I think that don't rush him. He's got plenty. He's still a teenager. Why put all that pressure on him? He's doing so well out at the centres that why would you potentially scar a kid that could be one in like a generational player? I think that he has potential to be very similar to you guys like Latrell, you guys like Gio. I'm not saying he is that, but he does remind me sometimes with his size, his strengths. What do you think, Smithy?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you, mate. And it's a big role that you play at number one now. Like it's a lot of people regard it as the most important position in a football side now. And to be fair, like Tessie New has actually played well this year also. So I think he deserves an opportunity to be back there again next year. So, yeah, I think for Selwyn, I think a centre position next year, certainly to be able to just settle into first grade is probably where he needs to be.
Here's a text I like.
Yes.
Smithy, I hated you when you were a player just due to the fact that you're an absolute gun, but your expertise in the media side is of GOAT status.
Oh!
The GOAT status. You're the GOAT.
Who's that from?
The GOAT of media. That's from Cameron Smith's mum. That's
I was going to say. Thanks, Mum. Appreciate that.
I want to know what you guys think with the GF Storm and Panthers, clear best two teams. So do you think that it'll be who do you think will be in the grand final?
Well, it can't be Storm Panthers anymore. It just cannot be because after losing in their first match, Penrith, now they actually switch sides of the finals draw, and whoever wins out of themselves and Parramatta actually take on Melbourne in a prelim to go in the grand final. So that was a little bit of talk leading into that first week of finals, Campy, was that people were just hoping that didn't happen. They wanted to see the showdown. They wanted to see the rematch between Storm and Penrith again. But that won't happen now. We're going to see them possibly in a prelim if Penrith win now. I actually feel as though, from the games on the weekend and where the finals are at now, I feel as though it's Melbourne and the Rabbitohs. I really do.
Could you imagine? Now, another question. Hey, blokes, long-time listener. I've had mates play Storm under-20s team years ago and heard that Bellyache had a saying, head on a platter. Was just wondering if there was any truth to this.
Well, he certainly does target a particular player, particularly in these big games. And no doubt on the weekend, it was Tommy. Tommy had what were we saying last week? It was, stats-wise, it was like the greatest game ever.
Yep.
And then, he turns up Friday night against Melbourne and has very little impact. So, that's where Craig is very good in these big matches and against the quality players. And it's not about taking that player out of the game. It's about minimising the impact or the influence more so that he has on his team. Now, we've all seen, the performances of Tommy this year and what he's been able to do for that Manly side. They've lost. How many games have they lost when he's been playing? 2 maybe this year?
Yeah, small. And it's been against top 4 sides.
Yeah, so he's got a huge influence on the way that team plays and Craig identifies that and says, well, righto, let's go after this guy and just try and minimise the impact he has, and that'll go a long way to us winning.
Here's another text. G'day, Goat and Beak. Tokos and Usos. We've got one of the boys here, the Polynesian boys here. Back in your playing days, just wanted to ask, what was your guys' preparation during the week leading into finals? What was your Smithy?
Well, I didn't really change a whole heap, but I just had to make sure I had a really strong understanding of what was needed from the coach, in my role for that week in particular. But I'd make sure I do a little bit more homework on the opposition and things that they'd done leading up to that match over the past, fortnight, their previous 2 games, and any trends that I seen in a lot of the positive stuff that they were doing, particularly, through line breaks or points scored, some areas of defence where I thought that, we could probably, try and get some good things happening for us. That's where I'd probably do a little bit more work. But as far as, changing my preparation, I didn't change it too much.
Yeah, I mean, I was similar. I was of them very much, especially early in my career, I would make sure I had no mental distractions. So no one was allowed to text me on game day or talk to me on game day that was outside of the playing group. Bit of a weird one.
Really?
Yeah. Everyone knew it. My whole family knew it. If you text me, I'm blowing up.
Did the phone go off?
No one did. No, everyone, trust me, if you text me on the game day earlier in my career, I would be filthy. I just needed a mentally clear space. I needed to be so focused. And
yeah, right.
I think it's a little bit different. Well, it's a little bit different to me because I'd only been playing rugby league for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
When I was playing NRL, so it was all the anxiety of learning a game whilst playing NRL. It was it's very hard for me to be calm during a game because everyone, even just holding the ball, the way you hold the ball, knowing when to offload, all those things you learn through motor skills as you're younger.
Yes. Yep.
I never got that. Whereas, if you kicked a soccer ball to me, I've actually got better motor skills. Yeah, because I did that all growing up. So that was my preparation growing up. But we have huge news. Allegedly, reportedly, whatever word you want to use that weasels you out of locking you into something, Billy Slater. Billy Slater has been offered a 3-year deal by the Queensland Maroons to coach as a head coach. What are your thoughts, Smithy?
Oh, look, mate, I think that's it's not a surprise. I've been saying that for anyone that's been asking me over the last sort of week whether Billy would get offered the job or whether he'd get the job. I just thought it's common sense because only 12 months ago, maybe a little bit less than 12 months, he was actually was in the conversation to have the role for 2021. As we know now, Paul Green was given that job, but because he was in that conversation, I just thought it was common sense that the QRL would then go back to Billy. He's not affiliated, or he doesn't have any aspirations that I know of to be an NRL head coach, which was, I think, what was the main concern for the QRL, wasn't it? out of the Paul Green stepping aside. So that sort of cleared the way for Billy to take over. So is it confirmed? Has he actually committed to the role yet? And I'm being honest here, I haven't spoken to Billy about this and whether he's committed to it or not.
Well, I'm not
I don't
sure
think he
committed.
has. Yeah, I don't think he has. I haven't seen anything about that. So, we're not saying that Billy is the new Queensland coach. I think it's been offered, and he'll certainly consider it. I think he will, because every time I've spoken to him about the Queensland Maroons, he's very passionate about the football team. He's very passionate about the state and the jersey, and he's a guy that wants to help out. He's a guy that wants to get in there and give his knowledge or share his knowledge to a lot of these young guys, starting out their origin careers, for Queensland.
Yeah, what I love about the offer, if it is, 3 years, I love the fact that it is 3 years. Give him an opportunity to build his systems, to build a culture that he wants to build, to bring in game plans that he wants to bring into staff, all of that kind of stuff. But we have to go to a break, so don't forget to send us a text anytime. 0457 736 736. This is a Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. For Best Sheds, save big with Best Sheds' massive spring sale and the super tough Adventure Kings Camper Trail, tough enough for Australia. Back shortly on SEN. Come back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Make sure to send in your text to 0457 736 736. Hey, Kempy and Smithy, curious for your opinion on last Friday's game between Manly and Storm. What do you think Manly need to do potentially to ensure they make it to the GF? Well,
they really need to change their preparation. I said off the start of the show, Kempy, that I was sitting on the sideline, right? I was sitting on the sideline for that game, and they either looked completely outclassed by Melbourne, or they just looked like they weren't ready for the contest. I'd like to think that they're in there and they can compete with the best teams. But I just think that they weren't ready. I think they come off a great win against the Cowboys and thought, well, we're flying at the moment, we'll be okay. And they just come out and they were given a lesson by Melbourne on how to play finals football. There was just it seemed as though there was a lack of intensity, a lack of concentration, like a lot of errors by some players in the Manly side, which just gave away field position. It just released pressure on Melbourne. They didn't really build pressure on Melbourne, to be honest. And, you do that against a Storm side, particularly in finals time, they're going to make you pay, and they did big time.
Yeah, I think that they came into that game expecting to just score points at will, and they seemed a bit over-eager to get points rather than build pressure. That first 20 minutes was very surprising. I thought that, with DC having played so many big games, he would understand that we just need to don't even think about tries in that first 20 minutes. Let's just build pressure. We can score points. It's not a, you know what I mean? It's not somewhere, they're not a team where you could look at the Eels and you could say, the Eels may get a bit panicky because they struggle to score points sometimes, but Manly,
Yeah. And too, like in the big games, when there is, a bit more pressure on you to perform, then if you're worried about the result or worried about the scoreboard, it tends to take your focus and your mindset away from the job at hand and what you've spoken about all week and talking about the game plan, because if things don't go your way or they go the way you plan it to, particularly early on, like Melbourne scored a try off the back of a knock-on against the runner play. They score 6 points. They go down again and score another 6 pretty quickly soon after. And then all of a sudden you're looking up the scoreboard going, hang on a minute, this wasn't in the playbook. This wasn't in the preparation, in the meetings and that. It's 12-0, and then all of a sudden your mind goes.
Mate, absolutely. It definitely looked exactly that's what happened. They all of a sudden went, oh my God, we're so far behind. Let's start, offloading. Let's start kicking. So, yeah, it was a very interesting game to watch. I think they still have the potential to make the grand final, but they need to, go back to, it sounds very cliche, but go back to basics and build the pressure. Now, Sam Verrills has been given a 2-week suspension after trying to challenge a careless high tackle. I think it was a grade 2.
Yep.
Now, what do you think about this, Smithy? Do you think do you think that finals footy should be graded differently, or do you just think let's be consistent throughout the whole year?
Oh, mate, you're asking a person. I got 2 weeks in 2008 in that great game that both you and I were a part of. So I missed the prelim and and a grand final through suspension. So, look, it's a hard one. There's a lot of people that have played the game for a long time that have come out and said over the years, finals should be and origins, they should be graded differently, and the points given, for a charge should be different. But yeah, it's a difficult one because, why is it different? It's a match and you've done the wrong thing. I'm sure Sam Verrills and everyone involved at the Roosters can see that, he hit him high. He got him square in the face. Like he got Brian Kelly square on the nose.
On the beak, you don't want that, trust me.
Right on the beak, mate. You'd understand how much pain that is when you get a knock there. But it's a hard one. And, they went in to contest the grading, I think it was, to try and minimise the length of the suspension. But, they've upheld it. And, he's copped 2 weeks now. So it's a big out. And they've been dealing with it all year. I guess that's if there's one positive out of it, which, you probably, there's not many for Roosters fans and particularly the team, they've actually managed to do well throughout this entire year with suspensions and injuries. So when a man goes down, another one comes in and they just come in and do their job. So big game. This is a huge game. Huge game, for Roosters and particularly their big players. I thought the other night when the Titans seemed like they were starting to get a bit of a grasp on the game and take control of the match. Tedesco, Victor the Inflictor, Jared Weir-Hargraves, all the experienced big name players, they all stood up and turned the game around for the Roosters.
Oh, mate, absolutely. And with the Verrills thing, I consider this, Smithy. Would you be open to finals footy or origin, but mainly finals footy? Finals footy and origin. That, let's say Verrills' situation happens and you can see that there's no intent. Yes, he did connect him high, so he should miss weeks. But in saying that, finals footy is a little bit different. What if he served his suspension at the start of next year? And you kind of eat into your next season. Thoughts?
I can see that. But then you could probably say, what if Sam Verrills was going to the Broncos? Then the Broncos are penalised.
That's true. That's a good point.
So that's
you shot that down. So don't worry about that one, guys. Don't worry about it. I've been thinking about that all night. I've been had that in my bloody back pocket. I thought Smithy's going to love this one. One of the greatest players to ever play the game is going to love this one. I even said to my missus, I said, I've got this great idea. Smithy's going to love it. Now it's just gone.
I do like it, but it just wouldn't work, mate.
End of the show. I'm done. This is. Oh man!
But it's a big game, mate. This weekend, it's they're coming up against Manly, who will be. I'd like to think they're going to be completely different football side to what we've seen the first week. I think they would have been, sort of spoken to quite swiftly by Desi after that game on the weekend, and just said, "Hey boys, we need to change things very quickly. We need to get our heads on for this match because it's do or die for all of them now. Like there's no second chances for any team." Yep. And I'd like to think that Manly will fancy their chances this week. I really do. I think they'll fancy their chances by a Roosters side who are missing a lot of players. But the thing that makes it interesting is the attitude that the Roosters will take into this game, and they've taken into every game this year, is that they're not focused on who's not there. All they're worrying about is who is there and who can come out and play well and get another victory for them.
Oh, mate, their ability to, regardless of talent, you buy into what you have to do on the field. You know what I mean? A lot of
of course,
I think, especially the teams that struggle a bit, they're so concerned about, we don't have this guy, or we don't have the Tedesco or Tom Trbojevic, whereas the Roosters, no, don't get me wrong, they still have a high-quality team. But even the players that are rookies and may not be superstars, they still go on and give you a satisfactory or above performance. And I just think it's such a testament to their culture as a club that you can get guys that aren't at the peak of their game, but they can still deliver top 4 quality footy.
Yep. No, I agree, mate. Yep. Good point.
Now, just quickly with the Eels, where do you think the Eels are after watching? They nearly lost to the Knights, but I felt like they did have control of the game for most of the game.
Yeah, and they probably did what they had to do to get past Newey the other night. I'm still not convinced. Now,
okay.
and I'm making that, and I'm giving that opinion based on the form lines of all these teams coming into the finals. Now, I pointed that out against the Manly Seagulls, the form line they took into the game against Melbourne, where they had some great victories and they scored a lot of points, but the opposition they played it's a big difference between those teams and Melbourne. Now, Parramatta, they got a victory, but it was against the Newcastle side, mate, that just they haven't been playing well. And it was great for them and great for the people of Newcastle that they made the final series. But I'm sure, and their coach Adam O'Brien would agree that, they didn't take sort of great form into the final series. Like they were sort of, bumbling and stumbling their way through games. They were beaten by Brisbane the week before the first semi. They just beat Brisbane maybe 3 weeks before. They only just beat the Titans. They were doing, just enough to win these matches. So, for Parramatta to then, beat them by, 6 points, 8 points, they now face a different prospect taking on Penrith. Now, I think Penrith will be, again, a better side than what they were last week. Although, I don't know, a lot of people may disagree with me here. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I just don't think Penrith are playing at the same level as they were last year.
Yeah, no,
I just don't think they are.
I agree. Now, I do think they're close. They're not too far away, but you're right. But we have to go to a break. After the break, we will obviously be joined by the great Tristan from TopSport. This is a captain's run with Cameron Smith for Best Sheds. Save big with Best Sheds' massive spring sale and the super tough Adventure Kings camper trailer. Tough enough for Australia. Back shortly on SEN.
Time for an odds update. TopSport, giving you top dollar for everything NRL. Gamble responsibly.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith on SEN. Make sure to download the app if you haven't. We have the great Tristan on the line to give us odds. Now, just like my dating life, I can't promise returns, but I can promise a good time. Well, hey,
Campy, what returns are those?
Guarantee there'll be
any of the good kind.
Hey, Tristo, how you going?
good, boys. I can guarantee you'll get better returns than Kempy's dating life. I can't guarantee anything either.
Mate,
how's things, boys? We've got a big week of footy ahead. It's been some interesting games in week one of the finals. Really turned the premiership betting upside down. It was very interesting, particularly the South Panthers result. It was an amazing game. So we've got Melbourne were favourites pre-last week anyway, but they're in very short now at $2.05. The Panthers all the way up to $3.90, doused into $5. They were a massive firm, $11 into $5. So that's a big movement, and it sets up for a really interesting couple of weeks ahead. So where do you guys feel the obviously Storm outright favourites? Do you think Penrith still warrant being second pick, or what's your thoughts?
What do you think, Smithy?
Oh, look, I think they do, just given what has happened over the last couple of seasons, and they have been clearly, top two teams in the competition, Melbourne and Penrith. But I think after the result on the weekend, it's a very hard road back after losing the first one. Now they've got to go the long way. I'm not saying it's impossible, but they need to have a win this week and then face Melbourne Storm coming off a week off, who are going to be fresh, and just Craig Bellamy have their eyes rolling in their head for that prelim.
Yep.
I just think it's going to be a long way for them to get back to that grand final.
Yeah, and that's what the market has indicated. And Melbourne actually got in as short as $1.90 after their dominant win against Manly, but obviously now having to face Penrith a week earlier, they've drifted out to $2.05. So, they are outright favourites, but it's going to be, assuming Penrith get over the top of Parramatta, and they are $1.23 to do so. It's $1.23 Penrith, $4.25 Parramatta, and 12.5. It's going to set up for an absolutely fantastic prelim. And even on the other side of the draw, Melbourne were dominant there against Manly, and it's now $1.29 Manly, $3.70 the Roosters in that game. So Manly are favoured to get through to the to play South, but that'll be a cracker as well. So really looking forward to the few weeks ahead.
I don't mind that $3.50 sort of price around the Roosters. I really don't. Like if they come out and they've got 8 premiership players still playing in that team.
Yep.
So they know how to win the big games. Manly and Tommy, if they don't come out and sort of start well and they give Roosters a sniff, like that's good odds there.
Mate, I agree.
Particularly on the back of, like, they just ducked over the line against the Titans, but they showed they can win those tight games as well. So I think that's crucial. 370 in a 2-horse race when, as you say, all those premiership winners, Brent Robinson will have been really wound up for this game. So, yeah, I agree. 11.5 as well, the total, the point start, if you think it's going to be a tight game.
And so, what about first tries? Anything? Have we got anything over the last few weeks at all?
We've got a bit of cash in the charity account, but we're paddling away.
Campy, you've just whacked him there.
I said we. I said we. This is, hey, we all fail together, guys. We all fail together. But when we win, it's my pick.
I've got one today in the races, though, boys. It's the first starter out of the Wally Yard. It goes in only half an hour, so make sure you jump on there nice and quickly.
Yep.
Antonio Giovanni, first starter. J-Mac on board. Chris Wallaby, 420 into 320. Money around at first start. If it jumps out of barrier 8, I think it will be winning. So just let's go 200 on the nose on that for the charity account, and let's see if we can start to spin things up. We're a bit unlucky there 2 starts ago. Well, I thought we were home at $8 or $9 and just ran a nice second. So let's see how we go today.
So that's Randwick, race 1.
Race 1, number 1. Very easy to remember. Race 1, number 1, Antonio Giovanni, first starter out of the Wally Yard. J-Mac on board. I think will be very, very hard to beat.
Mate, thank you so much again, Tristan. Really do appreciate it. Make sure if you're having a punt with TopSport. Also, gamble responsibly, and we will see you next week, Tristan.
See you guys.
See you, Tristan.
Whether it's same-game multi or head-to-head betting, TopSport gives you top dollar for everything NRL. Gamble responsibly.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We've got a little bit of time left to give you a deep dive into the games this week. Obviously, we've got the first game. We're both being played in Mackay. We've got the Sea Eagles at 7:50 against the Roosters. What are your thoughts, Smithy?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people would be suggesting that Manly win this, given Verrills' suspension, the people that are out for the Roosters. But I actually think it's going to be closer than what people think. As I said, I'm just leaning on the way the Roosters have gone about things this year, and particularly their big game experience, and they could quite easily find themselves in a prelim. The thing for me is that Manly have got Tommy. If he can find some space and some time with the football early, the Seagulls can go on with it. They really can. It's a difficult one to sort of tip here. I'd probably lean towards Manly, just because of Tommy's influence on that footy side, and if he does come out and have one of his big games, then that could be the difference between the two sides. Although he's coming up against a man that's been there and done it plenty of times before in Tedesco. But I'm going to tip. Look, I'm going to say Manly. I'm going to say Manly just. Yeah,
look, I think Manly will get the win. I think Croker is a huge back in. Last time they had Lawton in the 9 role. He hadn't played much 9 all season there, whereas Croker has been, although he didn't start the year as a 9, he has developed into quite a solid 9. So I think Manly. Now, on to the Penrith Panthers versus the Eels. What a cracking match. Who you got here?
I've got Penrith, just on the back of, you need to give a good football side some respect. And they were beaten by a Bunny side who were up for that challenge, and they played a very good game of football to beat them. But I just feel Penrith will be too strong for the Eels. I hope it's a really close game. I really do. But I feel as though Penrith will be too good in this one.
Yeah, this is going to be it's tough because I actually thought Penrith were going to make a statement last week. I thought that was going to be the statement game. Here we are a finals footy team.
Yes,
they didn't seem to. So I'm hoping. Well, I mean, I don't mind who wins, but I think that this will be a statement game for the Panthers.
I'll tell you what'll be interesting. Craig Bellamy sitting back watching that game, thinking, who are we going to take on? Are we going to take on Penrith, who finished second? Were minor premiers in 2020, the team we faced in the grand final, or is it going to be Parramatta, who Storm have not beaten this year?
Crazy.
They have not beaten, so I don't know who he'll want to play.
Mate, it's been another. We're not going to rush out of this captain's run. We're going to move out of it smooth and easy, baby.
Yes.
Smooth and easy.
I'm relaxed. You're relaxed.
If you've missed anything from the show, make sure you download the SN app and grab the podcast. This has been the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith for Best Sheds are even better sheds. Thanks to Best Sheds' massive spring savings. bestsheds.com.au. Catch you next week.